Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, I want you to think about something you probably see, well, every single day. Maybe even right now. It's the paint on your walls, or, the colors on that building going up downtown. Seems pretty simple, right? Just layer of color. But what if I told you that paint is actually a massive, multi-billion-dollar global industry, one that's quietly shaping trends from construction to sustainability? Well, get ready, because today we're digging deep into the global decorative paints market. And trust me, it's about way more than just making things look nice. It's tied into construction, home improvement, even our eco-friendly goals.
That's exactly right. And our map for this journey comes from a detailed market research report by Cognitive Market Research. It's called Global Decorative Paints Market, Trends and Projections. So our mission today is basically to pull out the really key insights from that report. We want to understand what's driving this market, maybe uncover some surprises, and see what it tells us about, well, the bigger picture.
Absolutely. We're going to explore what decorative paints actually are, what's really pushing the demand, and just how huge this market has become. We'll also look at which parts of the world are leading the way, and crucially, why. Prepare for a few aha moments, I think, about an industry you might not give much thought to usually.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the basics. What exactly are decorative paints? The report clarifies it's not just one thing, it's actually a whole range of products. Think about your standard emulsions. These are usually water-based, they dry fast, easy to clean up, perfect for interior walls and homes.
All right, the typical stuff you'd use indoors.
Exactly. Then you've got enamels. These are tougher, often oil-based. They give you that hard, often glossy finish. Think doors, window trim, places that get a lot of wear and tear.
Okay, makes sense. And the report mentioned distempers and primers too. What role did they play?
Good question. Distempers are, well, a more traditional, sometimes cheaper option, mainly for interiors. And primers are really foundational. You put them on first.
Ah, to make the main paint stick better.
Precisely. Improves adhesion, durability, helps get that smooth, even color finish. So you've got this whole range used everywhere. Homes, offices, schools, hospitals, basically any building. They make things look good, sure, but they also protect the surfaces.
So it's that variety and the sheer number of applications that make them so, well, everywhere. Which leads to the next question. What's fueling such huge demand globally? Because it's got to be more than just homeowners deciding to repaint the kitchen, right?
Oh, definitely. What's really interesting is how the drivers are all sort of interconnected. The report really points to urbanization as a major engine. Think about it. More people moving to cities worldwide means more houses, more apartment buildings, more offices, more shops.
And every single one needs paint. Lots of it.
Exactly. New construction is a massive consumer.
And I guess that ties into rising incomes too.
It absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
As people have more disposable income, they're more likely to spend on home improvement, renovations, or just, freshening things up every few years. So it's not just new builds, it's maintaining and upgrading existing spaces too. And then there's the sustainability factor, which is becoming huge. This isn't just a niche thing anymore. It's really pushing innovation. We're seeing a definite shift towards eco-friendly paints, especially low VOC ones. VOCs are volatile organic compounds, basically, the stuff that can be harmful to breathe.
Right. The fumes you often smell with fresh paint.
Exactly. So reducing those is key. But it goes beyond that now. People are looking for paints that might improve indoor air quality or even help with energy efficiency somehow, like reflecting heat.
Fascinating. So it's this mix of construction, renovation, and this growing green demand. Okay, so we know what they are and why they're in demand. Let's talk scale, because the numbers in the report are pretty eye-watering.
They really are. So the global market was valued at over $50 billion back in 2021, already huge, but is projected to surge past $84 billion by 2033.
Wow, 84 billion.
Yeah, that's a growth rate, a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of over 4%, which for a market this big and relatively mature is really quite strong, consistent growth.
Over $84 billion. That is a serious jump. Okay, so where's this growth actually happening? Which regions are the hotspots? Maybe start with North America.
Sure. North America is still a very significant player. It's a mature market, so maybe not the fastest growth always, but it's steady. The projection is for it to reach over $23 billion by 2033. The U.S. is the biggest chunk of that, naturally, but Canada and Mexico show solid growth too. Consistent.
Okay, steady and large. What about Europe? Similar story.
Pretty similar, yes. Also a substantial market, expected to top $14 billion by 2033. You've got the big economies like Germany, France, Italy being major contributors. But interestingly, the report highlights the rest of Europe category showing quite strong, diverse growth. So there's definitely dynamism across the continent, not just in the biggest countries.
Right. So North America and Europe, big, stable, still growing. But I have a feeling the really explosive growth is happening elsewhere. Asia Pacific, maybe?
You are absolutely spot on. Asia Pacific is singled out as both the largest and the fastest growing region globally. By a long shot, actually. Its market is forecast to hit over $35 billion by 2033. That pace is just incredible. It really is the engine room for decorative paints right now.
35 billion. That's almost half the projected global total. Which countries are really driving that? China, I assume.
China is definitely a huge part of it, yes. Massive construction, massive population. Japan is also a strong, stable contributor. But the report flags two countries with really exceptional growth rates. India, which makes sense with its booming economy and construction sector.
And rising middle class wanting better homes.
Exactly. And the other one is Singapore, showing one of the highest growth rates anywhere. Plus, that whole rest of APAC segment, think Southeast Asia, showing really broad, phenomenal growth too. It underscores just how much development is happening right across that region.
Wow. That really paints a picture of the economic shifts happening there. Are we seeing similar, maybe smaller scale trends in other emerging markets?
We are, yeah. South America, for instance, it's projected to reach over $6 billion by 2033. Brazil is the main driver there, but Argentina and Colombia are significant too. And it does raise that interesting point, how much of this growth in emerging economies is brand new buildings versus fixing up older ones as living standards rise.
That's a great question. Probably a mix, like you said earlier, driven by those rising incomes pushing demand for better quality.
Hmm.
What about the Middle East and Africa? Are they factors in this global picture?
Definitely. The Middle East market is growing steadily. Saudi Arabia is the biggest player, and the UAE is showing particularly strong growth. Lots of construction and development projects there. Africa, while starting from a smaller base overall, is also set for noticeable expansion. Nigeria and South Africa are key markets, and again, the rest of Africa shows there's significant underlying momentum across many parts of the continent.
Okay, so pulling all this together, we've got this massive, interconnected global market for something as seemingly simple as paint. What does this really mean for us, the person just walking down the street or thinking about painting a room?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that the next time you see a freshly painted building, or you're choosing colors at the hardware store, there's just so much more going on beneath the surface. It's not just aesthetics. That can of paint is a tiny piece of these huge global shifts, urbanization, economic development, the push for sustainability. This market is like a quiet indicator reflecting how fast cities are growing, how living standards are changing globally, and this real pivot towards healthier, greener buildings and homes.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. This deep dive really hammers home that decorative paint isn't just, well, decoration. It's a powerhouse industry heading toward, what was it, over $84 billion by 2033. And that growth, as you said, isn't just about looks. It's fundamentally driven by more people living in cities, having more money to spend, and this increasing demand for products that are better for us and the planet.
Precisely. And we saw how Asia Pacific is just charging ahead, leading in size and speed, thanks to places like China, India, Singapore, but also how there's real potential and growth happening in South America, Southeast Asia, parts of Africa, alongside the steady large markets of North America and Europe. It's truly a global story.
So maybe the next time you notice that fresh coat of paint on a neighbor's house, or even just glance at the walls around you, take a second. Think about it as a little signpost for these huge economic and social currents shaping the world, often in ways we don't even realize.
It really does make you look at the everyday stuff differently, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It leaves you wondering, what are the things that we see or use constantly, things that seem totally ordinary, are actually these massive multi-billion-dollar industries just humming along, reflecting these giant global forces?
Something to think about. Challenge yourself to look past the surface of the everyday. And join us next time on The Deep Dive.
Okay, so think about this. We often just, walk past painted walls every day without a second thought. But what if I told you that the very paint on those walls is undergoing this massive, really fascinating transformation? Today, we're diving deep into the decorative paints market. It's evolving incredibly quickly. Our mission: uncover the forces driving that change, the big hurdles it's facing, and some of the really surprising innovations shaping its future.
And we're basing this on insights from a pretty comprehensive market report looking at the global decorative paint scene. It gives us a really unique lens, showing not just the trends, but the sort of why behind them, the deeper dynamics at play.
Right. So to get where paint is heading, we need to start with what's pushing it forward. The big foundations, really, are global urbanization kicking into high gear and just more construction everywhere.
Yeah, residential, retail, commercial infrastructure, it's across the board.
Exactly. And it's not just more buildings, it's specific investments, right?
But you
Especially in fast-developing regions. Think Asia-Pacific, the Middle East.
where you have national pushes for things like smart cities, affordable housing initiatives, modernizing hotels and hospitality.
And all of that directly fuels demand for, well, better paints. High-quality specialized coatings that do more than just look nice.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is how the COVID-19 pandemic just threw fuel on that fire. It really reshaped what people prioritize.
How so?
Well, suddenly, homeowners, property developers, they weren't just thinking about aesthetics for upgrades. Hygiene became huge.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
so hygiene-centric interiors.
Precisely. So now decorative paints have this like dual role. They need to look good, yes, but also protect the surface. So products with antifungal features or moisture resistance, washable paints, they're seeing serious growth, especially, kitchens, bathrooms.
High traffic areas, makes sense. It does raise the question of how permanent that healthy home focus will be, doesn't it?
It does. It feels like a significant shift, though.
And beyond just function, there's still that very personal angle. Home decor as self-expression.
Oh.
That seems bigger than ever.
Oh, absolutely.
People are actively hunting for, like, designer textures, bespoke finishes, keeping up with seasonal color trends.
Which they see constantly on platforms like Instagram and Pinterest, right? Those visual platforms are hugely influential.
Totally. We see with specific trends, like metallic paints or those matte sheen finishes. They seem to be everywhere, especially with, say, millennial homeowners going for contemporary styles.
That minimalist but textured look.
Exactly. And that ties into the whole DIY thing, too, doesn't it?
It really does. The rise of DIY culture, supported by all the online tutorials you can find now, plus tools that are genuinely easier to use.
Right. It means repainting isn't just a big city thing anymore. It's happening in smaller towns, suburban areas.
Yeah.
People feel empowered to do themselves.
Which, of course, changes how paint is marketed and sold.
And then layered on top of all that is the environmental piece. You can't ignore the growing awareness there.
No, you really can't. There's a definite accelerating shift towards eco-friendly products. A lot of it is driven by stricter air quality regulations, especially in North America and Europe. They're cracking down on VOC's volatile organic compounds.
So manufacturers have to respond.
They do, and they are. We're seeing a lot more low VOC paints, water-based formulations, even odorless options hitting the market. These appeal to health-conscious buyers, obviously, but they also help builders meet green building certification standards, which is a big deal.
And is the innovation just about less bad stuff? Or are there actually good ingredients coming in?
That's a great point. It's moving beyond just reducing harm. We're seeing paints using things like bio-based binders.
Replacing petroleum components.
Exactly. Derived from plant sources or other renewable materials. And even packaging is changing. Recycled content in the cans and containers is becoming much more common, especially from brands really pushing their sustainability credentials.
Okay, so it sounds like a really vibrant market, lots of innovation happening. But it can't all be easy wins and perfectly painted walls, right? What are the headwinds, the hurdles?
Right. Here's where it gets, well, tricky. The biggest constraint consistently is cost volatility.
Ah, the price of material.
Precisely. Paint production is super reliant on things derived from crude oil, plus pigments, resins, and the prices for those raw materials can swing wildly. Geopolitical tensions, shipping problems, currency fluctuations, it all feeds in.
And that hits the bottom line hard, I imagine.
Absolutely. These input cost challenges really squeeze profit margins, especially for, the smaller brands. It can also push buyers in price-sensitive regions towards cheaper, maybe lower quality alternatives just to save money.
Forces companies to constantly juggle their supply chains, I guess.
Constantly. And then on top of material costs, you mentioned regulation.
Yeah, the environmental rules.
Exactly. Those strict regulations around VOC emissions, what chemicals can be used, how products have to be labeled, they create a constant operational burden. It means ongoing reformulation work, constant testing, getting recertified. It all adds significant cost and complexity for manufacturers.
It's necessary, of course, for health and the environment, but still a hurdle.
It's definitely a double-edged sword. Vital, but challenging.
Okay, so cost and regulations. What about competition? Is it just paint brand versus paint brand?
Not entirely. That's another crucial point. There's actually significant competition coming from alternative wall decor solutions.
Like wallpaper.
Wallpaper, yeah, but also things like wood laminates, those textured panels you see.
Hmm.
Sometimes these alternatives can offer maybe a more striking visual effect or perhaps easier maintenance in certain situations.
Interesting. Where are those gaining traction?
We see them increasingly preferred in, say, premium spaces, boutique hotels, maybe high-end retail, corporate offices, places looking for a specific statement. And that definitely puts pressure back on the paint brands. They have to keep innovating to prove that paint isn't just the basic option, but can be a high-value design choice itself.
Okay, so facing those challenges, the costs, the rules, the alternatives, how are manufacturers fighting back? How are they staying competitive? Well, one big way is through technology, specifically enhancing the customer experience.
Ah, the digital tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about AI-powered tools to help you pick a paint color, navigating those 50 shades of beige.
Yeah.
Or virtual room simulators, where you upload a photo and try on colors digitally before you commit.
And personalized color matching apps too, right? Scan something, get the pink color.
Yes, all the major brands are rolling this stuff out online and even in store. And it's not just gimmickry. It apparently really helps reduce product returns, which is a cost saving.
And boosts upselling a bit, makes people more confident choosing those premium finishes.
That's the idea, getting people comfortable with the higher margin products.
This brings up an important area. What about smart paints? Is that really a thing?
It seems to be.
So paints with extra functions built in, beyond just color and basic protection.
Yeah, things like antiviral properties, antibacterial, maybe even air purifying capabilities baked right into the paint film.
Wow. And is there demand for that?
Apparently, yes,
Yeah.
especially post-COVID. Their use has really jumped in places where hygiene is critical. Hospitals, schools, public buildings.
Okay, so paint moving from purely decorative to actively functional, that's quite a leap.
It really is. And then if you look at the other end of the market, the high-end residential segment, paint is becoming a real lifestyle statement there.
How so? More than just expensive colors.
Oh, yeah. High-end buyers are going for really upscale finishes, things like marble effects, pearl coatings, finishes that mimic suede,
Texture is key.
texture, depth, even things like reflective coatings that block UV rays. Paint as a performance feature. We're even seeing, like, limited edition paint collections curated by famous interior designers or celebrities.
Ah, tapping into that aspirational market elevates the brand perception.
Exactly. Turns paint into part of a curated luxury experience.
And looking at the companies driving all this, who are the main players navigating this complex landscape?
Well, the competitive field is still largely dominated by the big global names, isn't it?
It is. You've got AkzoNobel, PPG Industries, Nippon Paint, Sherwin-Williams, Asian Paints.
Mhm.
They leverage their huge distribution networks, constant product innovation, and regional partnerships to stay on top.
But others are competing hard too.
Oh, for sure. Companies like Dulux, Kansai Paints, Benjamin Moore, they're really focusing on expanding their digital footprint, making online buying easier, and heavily emphasizing their sustainability commitments to build that consumer loyalty.
So it sounds like success requires juggling a lot, managing those volatile raw material costs we talked about, navigating the regulatory maze.
While also investing heavily in things like automation in their factories and digital transformation across the board to make their supply chains and manufacturing just more efficient. It's a balancing act.
So when you pull it all together, what we've really explored today is this quite incredible transformation happening in the decorative paints market. It's clearly moving way beyond just, slapping some color on a wall. It's becoming this complex blend of advanced science, a channel for personal expression, and even, surprisingly, a factor in public health.
Yeah, and if you connect this to the bigger picture, this deep dive really shows how even industries we think of as traditional are being profoundly reshaped. Global trends like urbanization, that growing environmental consciousness, digital tech everywhere,
Yeah.
and just entrenching consumer values, they're all driving massive shifts. It's a fantastic case study in adaptation, really.
It really is. So here's something to think about as we wrap up. Imagine, maybe not too far in the future, the paint you choose for your home doesn't just reflect your style. What if it actively improves your health by filtering the air? Or what if it could interact with your smart home devices, maybe changing color based on the time of day or your mood? What kinds of new possibilities could that unlock for our living spaces? How fundamentally could that change what we expect from something as simple as a can of paint? Makes you think, doesn't it?